How do you two know each other?
Well, we were just talking about this actually because we went to school together. She doesn't remember me from school. So we went to Ryerson together.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, you're not allowed to say Ryerson.
You can't say Ryerson, you just are.
Report him through to the speech police. He's already had many offenses already with the authorities. So
listen, it can't be censored. So he would say Ryerson. But yeah, and we worked at CP24 together.
okay.
A long time ago. Listen, thanks for doing this. We've met before when I was on Parliament Hill. We recently met in Calgary, but you've never met Karman before.
It's nice to meet you. Thank you so much for doing this.
So we were debating how to start this.
Oh, yeah. And we thought long and hard about it. We really wanted a hard-hitting question for our first question. So I think you're going to be impressed by this.
You're going to be very
big trouble.
We were going to get into, there's a lot of big issues facing Canada right now, but we wanted to start with this. Who's your favorite wrestler?
Well,
when you were a kid.
I'll tell you, actually, I've got a great story about this. I grew up in Calgary, which is the home of the Hart family.
Oh, I was going to say Bret Hart because I'm from Calgary, too.
Well, mine is the lesser-known Bruce Hart, and I'll tell you why. Bruce is Brett's brother and Owen's brother.
Yeah.
But he did a little bit of wrestling at Stampede Wrestling. Do you remember Stampede Wrestling?
The Corral.
At the Corral.
Yeah.
Bruce was a part-time wrestler, part-time substitute teacher. So my mother knew him. And when I had my birthday,
yeah,
my mother said, "Would you come to my son's birthday party?" And so he showed up. And my dad built me a wrestling ring out of PVC pipe and ropes that he got over at the local Home Hardware.
Yeah.
And built it on our front lawn. We had all these kids that were there wrestling on this homemade mat. And Bruce Hart came and taught us some moves. And then my buddy, his name is Jaron Chaska, his dad owned a funeral home.
Okay. So
they pulled the coffin out of the back of the limousine so that we could actually take a limousine as 10-year-old kids to go to Stampede Wrestling. Or we actually referred to her. And so, but it was a limousine. It doesn't matter what it's normally used for. We were showing up in a limousine to go to Stampede Wrestling. No and so you might not know Bruce Hart, but he would be my favorite because he came to my birthday when I was 10 or 11 years old.
That's wild.
Yeah. And of course, I love Hulk Hogan. I mean, I know it's the obvious answer.
Yeah.
But we all remember, I remember being a kid watching WrestleMania, I think it was called at the time, and he fought Andre the Giant.
Yes.
That legendary fight where he gave him the big body slam in slow motion. And
yeah,
the whole world shook when Andre hit the mat. WrestleMania was great. I loved WrestleMania.
Yeah. That was on in my house all the time. But the reason I start with wrestling is because I understand when you were a teen, I think it was around 14 or so, you had this injury.
Yes.
And that you were very into sports, into wrestling, into hockey. And that was kind of a pivotal moment because that's when you started getting into politics.
That's right.
What was it about politics that was kind of the spark for you?
So first of all, that was amateur wrestling. I was never into the show business wrestling. It was the Olympic style wrestling that I did in high school, which I loved. But I got a terrible tendonitis that struck actually both of my shoulders, and it took me years to do physiotherapy and get that fixed. But the sum total of it was that I wasn't able to do any sports of any seriousness, because you basically need your rotator cuff in almost any sport, whether you're throwing a ball or you're wrestling or punching or whatever. Yeah. The force is going through that shoulder, and so I had nothing to do when I got home from school. My mother, she used to go to conservative meetings as a volunteer in the local community. And I said, well, why don't you take me to one of these meetings? Because I've got nothing to do. Mm-hmm. And so she took me to a progressive conservative meeting. And then I started reading books about politics all across the spectrum. The first book I ever read regarding politics was a biography on Fidel Castro. So, I started off obviously reading the wrong story,
right?
But then migrated to other great books that taught me a lot of the values that stay with me to this day.
So we found this picture of you.
Yes.
This is you in high school.
Yes.
Besides wrestling, what was this Pierre into, and how is Canada different now than it was from this time?
Sure. So that would have been at Henry Wisewood in my grade.
What was that?
I think this is the graduation year.
Yeah.
So thank God the buzz cut is different. If you ask what's different, I don't have that horrific buzz cut anymore. We should really Photoshop that buzz cut away and have a better hairstyle. But that was the 90s. At least I didn't have a mullet. What was I into? I was getting into debate.
Yeah.
So I would go to debate contests and compete against other high school students. And that is where I began to learn how to communicate, how to win arguments, and how to assemble evidence to build a case. And so that's what I was like, in addition to playing some sports and doing the things that most, I guess I would have been 18 at the time, 18-year-olds do. That's who I was. How has the country changed? Well, I mean, when I came out of high school, it was taken for granted that if you got a job, you could pay off your student loans and have a down payment on a house by the time you were 25 or 26. Mm-hmm. That was normal. It wasn't like if you owned a home at 25 or 26, people would say, okay, that's normal. And today, you basically have to save up until your 40s to get a down payment and then do nothing but work just to make the monthly mortgage payments. So our money has lost a tremendous amount of value. And it was also a safe place. We'd get into the normal high school fisticuffs once in a while, like all teenagers have experienced that. But you never felt fundamentally unsafe living in our community. And so today, of course, it's a war zone in a lot of Canadian communities because of the crime that liberal laws have unleashed.
Well, you've called it the Wild West, and I think that's an apt description. I mean, I remember growing up. We're not too far apart in age, but I grew up in Northeast Calgary.
Yeah.
And my parents didn't need to lock the door. It feels as though Canada was a lot safer then.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about this, and we were talking about, we're in Vaughan right now. There was a home invasion yesterday. There was a horrible case of the father being killed in front of his kids.
I was with his brother today.
Yeah. It's there's so many examples of this, and I wonder if there's one that sticks out to you from the stories that you've heard, and also how do we get Canada to a place where it is safe again?
Oh, well, I mean, this story of this 3-year-old being raped the other day is just like, it's sickening. It actually sickens me.
Yeah.
And there'll be a special place in hell for the dirtbag who did that. What makes me most angry, though, is how preventable it was. The accused has already been convicted of molesting a 12-year-old. Mm-hmm. He has another rap sheet of about a half dozen offenses or arrests, and yet somehow he's out on the street. So that is the direct result of liberal laws. C-75, the catch and release bail law, C-5, which allows house arrest and eliminated mandatory prison time for a whole series of serious offenses. Mm-hmm. It is actually a very, I know that it's very trendy to say it's a complex problem. People often use that sentence. Pseudo-intellectuals often use that sentence to sound sophisticated, right?
Yep.
And what they really do then is their convoluted words just descend like snow over the truth to obscure the reality. But it's not a complicated problem. It's a really simple problem. Really simple. We have a tiny group of criminals who do a phenomenal amount of crime. Mm-hmm. And they're in and out of the system literally multiple times a week. So the question is, why do we keep letting them out? And the answer is liberal laws require judges to do that. Under C-75, the judge is required to release the offender, and I'm quoting now, mm-hmm. at the earliest opportunity under the least onerous conditions. So we blame the judges. Say, well, why would you release this monster? Well, he looks at the law, and it says he has to release them. So what do? Get rid of that liberal law and bring jail, not bail. Bring mandatory prison sentences. 3 strikes, you're out. 3 serious offenses, and you go away forever. That's how we will end the crime crisis.
Okay, so that's on the judicial legislative side. On the enforcement side, we're seeing our neighbors to the south, President Trump sending federal troops in to help with law enforcement. Do you foresee the need for federal assistance in our cities here? What do you think of that approach?
No, I don't, because the federal government is not the solution. It's the problem. The police are already doing their jobs, but they have a criminal code to enforce. Well, who wrote the criminal code? The federal government. So we have police. They do good work, but their work is immediately undone by the criminal code. They've gotten to the point where they say they have something called FIDO. FIDO. I'll put it politely. Forget it, drive on. It's not forget it. It's another word that I know this is a family-friendly audience.
Well, it's not Can't Be Censored.
But they
Don't censor yourself here.
Okay, all right. Fuck it, drive on.
Yeah.
That's what they police call it. I'm quoting them. And why do they drive on? Because they know that the work that they will have to do to take the criminal in for remand will be more demanding, will take them away from the streets so longer than the criminal will actually stay behind bars. So it's not worth even arresting them anymore.
Yeah.
If we get rid of the liberal laws, bring in jail, not bail, the police will have a workload that is so much lighter, and our justice system will no longer be overloaded with remand court cases that treat the same damn criminals over and over again. We will lock them up. We will throw away the keys, and the demands will immediately come off the back of the police, so they can spend their time actually keeping our community safe, connecting with young people, mentoring youth, the things that the police used to be able to do before this chaos.
Karman just mentioned Trump. I want to talk about tariffs now. And where are our elbows right now?
They've gone missing. I don't know where poor Mark Carney, I don't know where his elbows ended up. Seems like by midnight on election day, he had lost his elbows, and they haven't reappeared since. Can you think of a single elbow that Mark Carney has thrown at Donald Trump? Seriously.
Well, this is
since the election. There was a lot of tough talk before the election, but since then.
And so he was built up as this knight in shining armor that was going to come in. Assess where things are at right now and what you would have done differently had you been prime minister.
Well, the first thing is I would not, and I did not, make promises that I could not keep. Mark Carney said, quote, he will handle Trump. He will, quote, negotiate a win. He said he'd have a deal by July 21st. He's broken all of those promises. He hasn't handled Trump. Quite frankly, it's the other way around. He hasn't had his elbows up. He's had them down. He has not negotiated a win of any kind. In fact, since Carney became prime minister, the existing American tariffs have doubled on Canada, and the Chinese have now piled on with their own tariffs. So Mark Carney is losing abroad, and Canadians are paying the price at home. And it just seems that every few weeks he steps up and makes new concessions and backs down while getting absolutely nothing in return. So what would I do differently than that? One, I would go to the Americans and say, we can be richer, safer, and more secure by working together. We will do our part, which is to rebuild our military and secure our part of the continent, including the Arctic, unburdening the Americans from our security. We should be able to protect ourselves. And that will make both our countries safer, in exchange for which we would like to have unbridled access to the American market, the biggest and most lucrative market the world has ever seen. And we could have unbridled free trade that enriches both sides of the border, but that we expect for it to be reciprocal. And my message to the Americans would be, to our American friends, is that the more you trade with us, the more we can afford to build up our military and protect the safety and security of all North Americans. In other words, a win-win. But finally, we've got to become less dependent on the Americans, and that means the government of Canada has to get out of the way and let our builders build and our workers work. We have to repeal all of the anti-energy laws, C-69, the C-48, the tanker ban, the emissions or production cap on our energy sector, the industrial carbon tax. We have to remove all of that. Let's open Canada for business. and unleash a free enterprise boom in this country. Zero capital gains tax on earnings reinvested in Canada. You imagine the hundreds of billions of dollars that would come rushing back into our economy if investors could sell their foreign assets, bring it home to Canada tax-free, and hire workers, open factories, mines, pipelines. It would be economic rocket fuel. And then we'd actually have some economic leverage vis-a-vis the Americans, the Chinese, and others. So that is the approach I would take.
There could be another election here before President Trump's term is up. Mm-hmm. But before that, you face a leadership review within your own party. Mm-hmm. We've kind of heard, you gained ground during the election, new voter coalition. Those were all things that you talked about. But at the end of the day, it was still a loss. Is that enough to convince the people you need to convince to keep you on as leader?
Yes. And I'm confident that the January vote will go well, but I don't take anything for granted. I'll keep working hard to grow and expand our very large coalition and continue to prosecute the government. And then the other thing is that we're going to continue to win the arguments in the debates like we have on inflation, the carbon tax, crime, natural resources, drugs. On all these issues, we led the debate, and we're actually changing government policy right now by winning those debates. And that's part of being a strong leader.
Just to follow up on Karman, though, do you see any areas where there might be some cracks that you need to pay attention to in terms of unifying the party? We've talked about, how this is a big tent party, but sometimes big tents, you've got, multiple sides pulling in various directions.
I've deliberately tried to build a coalition that is cohesive and that can stick together. If you look at the issue set, our people are united on everything. There's different parts to our coalition. Sure. You have libertarians who want just less government. You have fiscal conservatives who are mostly concerned about balancing budgets and opening up the economy. You've got social conservatives who are interested in protecting family and tradition. National conservatives who want to protect our common identity and our national security. What I've done is look at the Venn diagram, and I focus on the issues that all of them agree on. And
there are a lot of those.
Well, there's an abundance of them: low spending, debt, inflation, and taxes. Obviously, fiscal conservatives, libertarians, family values conservatives, they all agree on that. Tough on crime. All of our voters and our MPs agree with that. Rebuilding our military. All of our voters and MPs agree with that. Removing red tape and unleashing the free enterprise system. All of our coalition agrees with that. And so one of the secrets to our success is that we have focused on the issues that unify conservatives and happen to be generally popular with the Canadian population. And that has allowed us to both expand our coalition while keeping it together. What does Mark Carney's coalition agree on? They're fighting over resource development. He told people he'd build pipelines, but then he has this keep it in the ground caucus that wants to stop any resource development. Many Liberals disagree with him of backing down on the carbon tax. Mm-hmm. He's got Ottawa MPs who were elected because they promised they wouldn't cut any public servant jobs, but then he's got sort of the retired accountant that voted for him in Burlington who wants to see a smaller bureaucracy. So ironically, he has had more caucus problems than I have. Mm-hmm. You've seen them. His MPs speaking out against him. I think we have the most unified, consistent, and cohesive coalition of any of the political parties in Canada today.
The caucus discipline really is very impressive. What is the secret? Is the secret really just that common set? There must be more to it.
Well, we also have systems.
Yeah.
A lot of people wonder, how did Stephen Harper keep his caucus so united? And the media always assumed, he's a scary guy that goes icy blue eyes staring you down. You must be terrified. Of course, that wasn't it. You can't keep people together like that. He set up a system whereby the backbench MPs would have first crack at any policy proposal before it even went to cabinet. So we would bring in, basically, so we would say to look at the MPs on the transport committee. We'd say, we have a transport bill. We want to bring it to cabinet. Come into a room and let's discuss it first. And then your comments will be passed on to the ministers. And then the whole thing will be approved by the caucus. And so it would go through all these steps. And by the time it came out, people would always have their say. Wouldn't always get their way, but they'd always have their say. And they knew that their interest was served by sticking with the program, because it meant that more often than not, they would get their way, even though they might not like this latest policy position the government took. I basically adopted that approach. We thoroughly vet our policy decisions through our MPs before they ever get made public. And that's why, if you look back, I've been leader now for 3 years. Mm-hmm. Name a major policy reversal I've had in 3 years.
And you think, obviously, like, the Liberals are all over the map when it comes to policies?
Well, first of all, they have no idea where they stand from day to day. Mark Carney, he literally wrote a book advocating keeping our resources in the ground and raising carbon taxes and banning internal combustion engines. And what does he stand for now? He claims that he's reversed himself on all these values, as he called them. He's abandoned them all. So I think a lot of his caucus says, who is this guy? It's like Eminem. Will the real Slim Shady please stand up? Will the real Mark Carney please stand up?
Well, one of the things that you've been really kind of hammering him on, and I think it's an issue a lot of Canadians are talking about right now, is immigration. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know if you notice I'm brown. But sometimes this, when you try to have a conversation about immigration, sometimes there are times when people get accused of being racist. You can't seem to have an honest conversation. I talked to my parents. My parents came in the 70s from Trinidad. There was a very kind of robust process. It took them a very long time to come here. And they look at immigration right now and they say we've got to get a hold on this. So
are you a racist for saying that?
Apparently, yeah. I mean, I guess so. Yeah. I mean, but this is the thing. I don't know if the system right now is working well for Canadians or serving the folks that are coming in.
Yeah.
How do we fix Canada's immigration crisis?
I just want to add to that.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to go back to the 70s, but even as maybe 5-6 years ago, the general public sentiment was, we're okay with immigration. We like immigrants. They contribute a lot. We give back to them, back and forth.
Right.
But something changed. Something doesn't work. But how do we fix all that, the policies and the programs, without being anti-immigrant?
Well, you basically have to reverse everything the Liberals have done on immigration. I mean, let's not pretend the system just ran out of control on its own. These were deliberate decisions by the then immigration minister, Sean Fraser, who's now been promoted to justice minister, to increase population growth by about 200%, basically overnight. And they brought in people 3 times faster than we added jobs and homes. That's a mathematical problem. It's not a racial problem. It is everybody from every race needs a house, needs a job, breaks their leg and needs a doctor. And if you increase the population 3 times faster than you increase the number of jobs and homes, you're going to have a shortage. Now, the Liberals also allowed a massive systematic fraud in the system, where they allowed these fake colleges to provide fake programs for international students, which were ultimately just the employers were just using it as a backdoor way to bring in low-wage workers. Mm-hmm. And, the chaos is undeniable. There's 26 international students were found living in one home basement in Brampton.
I did a story on this when I was at CBC on Marketplace, and we went to a house in Vancouver. It was a very unsafe situation. You had like 13 or 14 people in one house.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
And it's actually really sad because they're great kids. I meet a lot of these international students. The same with the temporary foreign workers. They're actually phenomenal people.
But it's not fair to them either.
It's not fair to them. And they were lied to. They were lied. Mark Miller and Sean Fraser and Justin Trudeau, they lied to these people. They basically said, come in, you'll pretend you're studying, but we'll really allow an employer to exploit you for 50 hours a week. And then then you'll become a citizen. And a lot of people made these sacrifices, and they got here and found out it was all a lie. Their families had mortgaged their farms back in their home country, lost all their money, and all for a liberal lie. Yeah. And then the Liberals have the audacity to call Canadians racist. Well, I actually think what they did to those students and to the temporary foreign workers that are being exploited today, that is racist. By creating an underclass of low-wage, impoverished workers whose rights are systematically violated, that to me is racial injustice, for which the Liberals, their only thing that they should be doing right now is offering a tearful apology for how they demolished what was the single greatest immigration system in the world, the system that brought my wife and her family as refugees, the system that was admired around the world before this Liberal government, and the system that we will restore when I'm Prime Minister.
If you're tuning in, you already care about politics and campaigns. You know how fast things can change and how hard it is to stay ahead.
That's where Nick's strategies comes in. They don't just run campaigns, they supercharge them with AI. From real-time voter sentiment monitoring to message testing and grassroots mobilization, their tech uncovers insights you won't find anywhere else.
This isn't guesswork. They combine proven campaign strategy with AI-driven intelligence and reporting, all built and processed right here in Canada, powered by Ranker AI technology.
That means candidates can move faster, out-communicate opponents, and actually connect with people in ways that win.
Ready to give your campaign an edge? Visit nickstrategies.com.
Okay, we want to switch over to affordability, homeownership. You often talk about homeownership as the Canadian dream, but if, let's say, half a generation that's not even a possibility for them, should we maybe change the narrative, the framing of, success from renting or owning a home to, renting or,
Yeah. I mean, I guess does the metric need to change? Is the Canadian dream anymore owning a home, or can it be renting?
Are you serious?
I don't know. I mean,
No. I just do you realize
this is the conversation? Because
no, just if I could, do you realize what they've done to you?
Who's they?
The government.
What have they done to us? Oh boy.
They just tricked you into massively lowering your expectations,
lowering the bar
for your quality of life. I find it heartbreaking that people are being tricked into thinking that their lives have to be permanently worse than they were 10 years ago.
But why is it worse to be a renter?
Why it's worse to rent permanently?
Mm-hmm.
It means you'll never be able to build up home equity. Home equity is the basis for most retirements. It means that you'll always be paying off the mortgage of a multinational corporation that rents you your place rather than building up ownership in a place that you can call your own. Owning a home was something we took for granted only 10 years ago. And the government has enacted policies that have doubled the housing cost. Now, let's be clear. This wasn't an inevitable phenomenon that was unavoidable.
Yeah.
Our housing costs in Canada have risen 35% faster than incomes for the full Liberal decade. That is the worst gap of any OECD nation. Why is it that when you go to Niagara in the States, you can buy a house for 60% less than Niagara in Canada, 15 minutes apart? So same geography, same population density, and yet somehow it's more than twice as expensive on the Canadian side of the border. Let's isolate the problem. Liberals created this mess. They had excess money printing and immigration, which boosted demand, and they funded bureaucracies and put in taxes that block supply. When governments inflate demand and restrict supply, the price rises. We should not accept that could go on anymore. We need to reverse the Liberal policies that doubled housing costs. That means stop printing money, bring in a number of new people that we can absorb, and remove the taxes and bureaucracy so that we can build homes affordably like we did for 160 years before the Liberals took office.
So what do you say to the young person right now who thinks that this is just out of reach for them?
They're right. Right now it is.
They've lost hope.
Yes, I know. And that's the sad part. And what the Liberals are trying to do is their new message is that that young people just should accept that the Canadian promise is permanently broken. And that's why I was so taken back by your question, because I don't want people to accept the miserable standard of living Liberals have imposed on them. And I think the secret, if the Liberals are running the next election, will be to say, hey, everybody, we know that life is terrible, unaffordable, unsafe, but it can't get any better. You're just going to have to live with it. That's effectively their implied message. My message is you don't have to live this way. We have the biggest supply of land per capita of any OECD nation. Housing should be dirt cheap in Canada. It should be the cheapest place in the world to buy a home. And so that is my view, and I'm going to keep selling hope that we can restore the promise of this country where you work hard, you get a house, you get affordable food, you get to live in a safe neighborhood.
So we want to talk about, we want to move now to the media, a hot topic.
Oh, right.
But Karman, why don't you tell Pierre a little bit about how this concept Can't Be Censored came to be?
Look, we're former journalists. This is
mainstream media journal.
This is not an exercise in journalism per se. We just spoke to you about issues for a long period of time, got to really hear what you think, and I think in this sort of soundbite sort of society we live in, we don't often get context or nuance or give people a chance to really talk. We want to hear what people think and what they want to talk about.
And I think it's about not cutting people off and actually hearing the nuance of what folks say. So I guess, where do you see independent media fitting into that? And where is legacy media right now in this country?
I just think everybody should be on the same level and let the marketplace decide, let listeners, viewers, and readers decide what kind of media they want to consume.
You have to balance legacy media and independent outlets like ours. How is that working, and how is the relationship going with the press right now? Do you feel like you get a fair shake when it comes to mainstream media?
Well, of course not, but that's nothing new. I mean,
why is it of course not though? Because don't you think that you should have a fair shot?
Of course.
So why is that the case? Do you think that outlets lean one way or the other?
Yes. They do. And they all know that, and you know that.
I mean, I do know that. But I mean...
You worked for CBC, am I wrong?
Well, I did. Apparently, I still do. I haven't read the paper to see if I'm still employed or not. But
probably won't be after this interview.
After this airs, probably not. But, I mean, part of the reason we did the show is to push past kind of gatekeeping. I did live it at CBC. I was told to keep quiet, not rock the boat. I mean, I was not even able to request an interview with you.
Wow.
I wanted to have you on my show. I was not able to do that. But what's your take on the state of our public broadcaster right now?
I think, it's as you describe it. They have an ideological objective, and they carry it out every day. And but you described it very clearly in your comments after you. So have you left, or so I'm not misstating the fact?
I think that they have a story on their website with my resignation letter. But
okay.
Apparently,
well, before you resigned, you described how CBC operated, and I think your assessment is accurate.
So why do you think it is difficult then when you've got a large proportion of Canadians, and I'm from Alberta, so and when I went back to Alberta, often when I was working for the CBC, I said no. I would defend them and say, no, that's not true. They don't they don't lean one way or the other. And then you get to a certain level and you start to see policies weaponized. I guess there doesn't seem to be a recognition from the top brass at CBC that this is even a problem. So doesn't that need to happen first before you can fix the problem?
Well, to them, it's not a problem because they get more money to push the liberal message, and they push the liberal message so they get more money. So they don't think that's a problem.
Do you still think though that the CBC needs to be defunded? Because I don't know where I stand on this really. I've written an op-ed, and it's on our app right now, about the fact that I think that there are places in this country that you have been to that would not be served if it wasn't for the CBC. I don't think it's working right now though. And I feel like there needs to be a review. So what do you think the Carney government needs to do in order to fix the CBC?
What is
Go ahead.
is it a government problem? Do you see that as a government problem?
I think it's a problem with the executives, but I also think that there needs to be more oversight in terms of like if all taxpayers, not just liberal taxpayers or conservative taxpayers, are paying money to fund the CBC. So they need to be representative of all Canadians. And there was a time when they were more balanced. What are your thoughts?
It's very simple. The thing that keeps media outlets serving the public is when they have to win over eyeballs and earlobes. And if you don't have to do that because the government determines your budget, then you will look to win over the government. And that's what they do.
Yeah.
Their audience is the government.
We are living in times in this country where things are very polarized. We talked about kind of sound bites and how people kind of just listen to 30-second clip. And you kind of stay in your group. You're either with us or you're against us. How do we get Canadians to listen to one another, to actually have conversations, as opposed to demonizing one side or the other?
Yeah, I mean, that's also part of the reason why we wanted to do this, was that we, among friend groups, dinner tables, we often disagree about a number of things, but we can then go on and have dinner together. We can go on and be friends. You're not my enemy because you disagree with me.
I think the problem is that some people have developed the idea that they can shut down other people. That if someone disagrees with them, they can have them censored, silenced. But there unfortunately has been a mentality that has grown across the English-speaking world that if you don't agree with someone, censor them, shut them up, fire them, destroy their lives, and that has to stop. We need to allow vigorous, free, open debate, not censorship, not political violence. That is the freedom of expression is the lifeblood of our democracy. And we need to unite across ideologies and parties to say that political violence and political censorship are not acceptable, that we thrive only on freedom of speech, and in the free and open world of ideas, let the best ideas win the argument rather than the side that uses force and violence.
So how did we get there where speech is now policed and you are censored? There wouldn't be a need for this show if we weren't censored.
You're right. And I think there has been a very concerted effort to silence contrary voices on a whole series of political issues and to use force rather than to use freedom to resolve differences. And I think that's what we have to reverse.
All right. We want to end with some rapid fire. We call this the uncensored rapid fire round. All right.
Fire away.
Okay. How much do you bench?
He's only asked that because he wants to know if he can bench more than you. So
I don't know. Can I get back to you? I haven't tried to max out in a while.
You don't know your PR?
So I don't do barbell benching. I find it very hard. I still have that shoulder problem. It's still latent there. I usually use dumbbells. I think the highest dumbbell I've ever done was 110 or 120 dumbbell per hand. But that's a lot different than than barbell. Barbell is a different physical dynamic. And I haven't done a barbell press in like, I don't know, 10 years because it always screws up my shoulder.
All right.
I know that's a very, lame, very lame and long answer.
But that was
to a very simple
people
question.
how much you bench, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. How much you bench?
I can do like 220.
Oh,
220?
oh, sure.
And I'm a small guy.
That's pretty impressive.
Well, there you go.
Definitely more than your weight.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Karman, go ahead.
Okay, so Mark Carney is the prime minister now. In one word, what kind of leader is he?
I would say disappointing.
All right. If you walked into a CBC executive boardroom tomorrow, what's the first sentence out of your mouth?
I don't think they'd let me in the boardroom in the first place.
Stop by security.
Yeah, I think stopped by security. You said I wasn't allowed there already.
I probably got stopped by security. We could go together.
Yeah, that's right.
Let us in. Karman, go ahead.
Who in your caucus gives you the bluntest feedback?
The bluntest feedback. I'm not going to name caucus members. I'm not going to call them out. But my wife gives me very, very blunt feedback. She's not in my caucus, of course, but she gives me the best and most unvarnished feedback. But I don't want to single out any caucus members.
Fair.
Do you ever see a situation where you would grab a beer with Justin Trudeau?
No.
Okay. Yours?
You have two kids.
Yes.
Cruz and Valentina.
Yes.
If they said to you, "I would like a Labubu," do you know what that is?
No.
Okay.
I told her. I was like, don't ask me. You definitely will not know what that is.
What is it? Tell me.
Oh,
it's a doll. It's a doll.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. One might ask for it eventually.
My little guy is all about Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Spider-Man shoes, pants, shirts, lunch bags, you name it. It's all Spider-Man. In fact, he started school about a week ago now, and the first thing he told his teacher is his name is not Cruz, it is Spider-Man. So, and she's apparently respecting that. I ask her every day, she still call you Spider-Man? Yep.
Well, apparently my middle child is also named after Spider-Man because my husband is a big fan. Her name is Parker.
Really?
And Peter Parker is Spider-Man's name.
Yeah.
I agree to this coming out of many drugs and giving birth, and yeah, she's named after Spider-Man.
Well, my wife wanted to name our firstborn son Ronaldo, and she claimed that it was because it was Ronald Reagan's, a play on Ronald Reagan's name, and in reality, it was her affection for the soccer player. So I was like, no, we can't name our son after a soccer player that you have a crush on. We're going to call him Cruz instead.
We got two more. This is Can't Be Censored. So, favorite curse word?
Oh, boy.
Well, you said fuck already.
Well, I guess if there's no more incremental damage that can be done by simply repeating that. So we'll go with that. I'm already stuck with it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. And finally, what's the biggest misconception about you?
I don't know because I don't spend my time trying to figure out what the conceptions are. But, I'm definitely a fighter, but I think what I want people to know is that it's because I believe in what I'm fighting for. It's not just gratuitous. It's not that I have any personal dislike for the people in the other parties. It's that I am genuinely bothered by the damage that their decisions do to people's lives. And I believe the only way to fix that is through someone holding them accountable and ultimately replacing them.
I'm going to follow up on that. So I guess that was my last question. But do you think that your passion sometimes, I remember there was an article in Maclean's, Why is Pierre Poilievre so angry? Do you think your passion gets misconstrued sometimes and taken out of context? Because
But on the flip side, that can also work, right? That can also work.
It might by the media, but when I launched my leadership campaign, I did it in a video that I shot in my then basement. And I go back to that video from time to time. And it came out exactly the same time as that McLean's article.
Right.
Interestingly. And I scroll the messages. You can look at it. It's on Facebook to this day. Sorry, on YouTube to this day. And the number of times the word hope, 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 again and again. You give me hope. This gives me hope. Finally, I have hope. That is really what I try to inspire. And if you go and talk to the people who support me, that is what they will say. They will say, I'm with you because finally you give me hope. They don't say, I'm with you because you give voice to my anger. I almost never hear that. It's people who say, my life has been turned upside down. I can't afford a home. I'm eating at a food bank. My kid was harmed by a criminal. I've got a friend who died of an overdose. And you're the only hope we have to turn this around. And so hope is what really drives me forward. And it's the reason why I have the supporters I have.
And Canadians can have hope right now?
Yes, absolutely. They can have hope. We're going to have a very bright future. I really believe that. We have the most natural resources of any country per capita. Maybe in the history of the world, we have 4 coastlines that are either on the ocean or lead to it. We have the biggest supply of fresh water. We have an incredibly educated, brilliant, and diverse population. We have more space to house our people than anyone else. We can do this. And I really think the future of this country is very bright. I'm very hopeful. And that's why I'm doing this.
I think that's a good place to end it. Thank you for joining us.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.